Okay, so jumping back in on John Ramsey's testimony in this deposition, I had some in the last video, some concerns about John's movement throughout the basement as he came down, and he said he was doing it in a very logical manner. But as I'm looking at it, he comes down the stairs, and I guess JonBenet's body was found in the wine cellar, which was going through the boiler room into the wine cellar. So you got to go through the boiler room to the wine cellar. But I did remember correctly him coming downstairs and having to take that right. And what I was referring to was the laundry room on the right-hand side. So you come down to the stairs, and what you're facing immediately is the boiler room, which leads to the wine cellar. And that's facing you. And on your right-hand side, you're going to the laundry room and storage. And then you have to go, and that's immediately. So I was incorrect about JonBenet's body being to the right. What you would have had to do was, instead of going straight ahead into the boiler room, you would have had to go to that door to the right and go into the hobby room, which was the train room, and their storage. And you look around there, and that's where you have the broken window and the suitcase. But like I thought, you would have had to ignore the boiler room and the wine cellar. So it was illogical for John to come downstairs and go to the hobby room first and completely neglect everything else. That's what I was concerned about.
Explained to him that I might have broken it myself months ago. Showed him the suitcase that I saw under the window, which I felt was very out of place. We looked for any large pieces of broken glass, and then I got up and went to the cellar room, opened the door, and found JonBenet.
Do you remember why you decided to go to the cellar door at that particular time?
It was the next door outside of the train room. Other than that, no, it was a methodical search in my mind.
Was there a reason that you hadn't looked at that door the first time you went down to the basement?
There's no external exit from that room. So the first time I went to the basement, I was trying to figure out how someone could possibly have gotten into our home.
Do you remember whether or not Fleet White said anything to you while you were down in the basement, showing him the broken window and the suitcase?
I don't remember that he said anything.
Okay. Were you the first one to go to the cellar door?
I don't know.
When you opened the cellar door, can you describe, to the best of your recollection today, what it was that you saw?
I saw a white blanket, and I knew immediately I'd found JonBenet.
Did you turn the light on? Or
I don't remember turning the light on.
All of a sudden, you don't know anything? All of a sudden, everything is getting fuzzy?
When you found the white blanket, what did you do?
I took the tape off of her mouth. I tried to untie the cord that was wrapped around her arms. And I kissed her and talked to her.
Did you do anything then, after that?
I realized that she wasn't just asleep, that this was not good. And I carried her upstairs.
Do you know what, if anything, what Fleet White was doing at that time?
I have no idea what he was doing. I wasn't aware that he was around me.
So you wouldn't have known whether or not he had stepped into the cellar area where her body was?
I don't remember him stepping into the cellar area, no.
Do you remember asking him to go upstairs and get assistance or help?
I did not. I did not ask him that.
During the time, I'm going to direct your attention to a time that's earlier than the time you found JonBenet's body, and that is the time when the police were in the house. Between the time Officer French first arrived and the time Linda Arndt asked you to make a more thorough search of the house. Were you questioned by the police?
Yes, I think I was.
Do you remember making statements to the police?
I remember responding to a number of questions they had.
Do you remember if you were asked?
His speech pattern has slowed. It has slowed as he's becoming more reflective on the scenario that he's being asked to describe. So it's kind of like retreating back into his mind about this scenario. And where he was looking at Mr. Hoffman right in the eyes, now he's kind of like slightly looking off into the distance, thinking about this scenario.
Whether or not the house was secured when you went to bed the night before?
No, I don't remember that they asked me that question.
Do you remember ever telling any law enforcement officer that the house had been secured before you went to bed that night?
I remember telling, I believe it was Linda Arndt, that I thought all the doors were locked. I didn't understand how someone could have gotten in. Of course, I learned later that one of the doors was found wide open.
Did you know whether or not the security alarm was on that night?
It was not on.
Did you tell Linda Arndt or any other police officer that the security alarm was off the night before?
No, I don't believe I did.
When when you spoke to the police, did you offer them any theories as to why you thought JonBenet was missing?
I responded to a number of questions they had.
Do you remember some of those questions?
Oh, they asked, was anyone angry with you at work? Was anyone around you acting peculiar recently in the last few days? Anyone you could think of that would do such a thing?
And do you remember what you answered?
Oh, not completely. I know that in terms of people that were angry with me at work, I mentioned Jeff Merrick, who we had terminated due to performance, and he was extremely angry to the point of making threats in the past 6 months prior to that. Patsy made me aware of Linda Hoffman Pugh's strange behavior just prior to. But you need to ask Patsy about that because that's not firsthand information.
Anyone else?
I don't believe so.
Do you remember what, if any, other questions you were asked by any of the law enforcement people that were present?
Oh, they asked if we had any recent pictures of JonBenet.
I feel like I'm missing something. I feel like something is being withheld from me. I feel like there's this emptiness. That I'm feeling, that I'm not getting everything that I'm supposed to get. And so he's answering questions very differently from Patsy. Very different. Patsy was deny, whatever, deny. This is different. This is not necessarily outright deny. I don't know. This is sort of full on omission It almost seems like.
That's the only one I can remember.
Were you asked at any time by law enforcement during this period what had transpired the night before in your home?
During that period, I don't recall that they asked that.
Can you remember what occurred on December 25th, say from the morning on?
Generally, I can.
Could you give me just a general summary to the best of your knowledge?
I remember the kids bounding into our room that morning, excited to open their presents. Our normal tradition is that I go downstairs, turn on the Christmas tree lights. I brought a bicycle out of the garage that I had as a surprise for Patsy. The kids came down, we opened presents. JonBenet wanted me to take movies, but my battery was dead.
The schema that I was looking at for where the ransom note on the first floor was found, this is what I'm kind of confused about, and this is what I haven't gotten answered as well, is John went right down to the basement. The ransom note was found downstairs, if I remember correctly. As I'm looking at the schematic, on the first floor, so this is the second floor. First floor, I got the front door. I come into the foyer. Okay. I got my fireplace to the left, the living room to the left. And I got a set of stairs, but I can go through that set of stairs. Apparently, it looks like there's a door straight to the kitchen. I come around the kitchen and take a right. I see the mud room, and I also see the garage. And somewhere in this lower hall, coming out of this back staircase, this spiral staircase to the second floor, is where Patsy found the note. But right here is the garage, and the garage looks like it has an immediate door out. So the person, and there's a door right there. I don't know what that door is to the right of the stairs right here. But it would seem to me that this criminal, if I look at the second story, okay, the spiral staircase up, we got Melinda's bedroom, and right here, now that's a little weird. JonBenet's bedroom is right off that spiral staircase. It's right off that spiral staircase. So if we go with the intruder theory, the intruder was then smart enough to know that JonBenet's bedroom is right there. Melinda's not going to be there. There's nobody there to hear JonBenet. John Andrews not there. Burke is all the way on the other side. And so you pick up JonBenet and you lead her through the door right down the spiral staircase. John and Patsy on the third. But that's neither here nor there. But going back down to the first floor, this guy has access to take her down this spiral staircase back down to the first floor and go out this door to the right of the staircase. or take her to the garage and go out that door. That's what's confusing me. Why would he then take her down got the lower hall? I guess you got a staircase right there. Into the basement. I guess that's where to the north right here. The garage, I guess, was over the storage room. But then went straight, came down the stairs here, and went weirdly. That's what's so weird, because they're claiming that he tried to sneak her out of he tried to take her through the hobby room and to this window to get out. But we find her in the wine cellar. So he went off the stairs and straight through to the boiler room and into this wine cellar. That doesn't seem like he's trying to get out of the house with her. That seems like he's trying to take her into a room to conceal her. That's like that. That doesn't seem like what an intruder would do.
We had breakfast, a Christmas breakfast.
Do you remember what was served at that breakfast?
No, I don't. Probably pancakes.
Was that a family favorite?
Mm-hmm.
Who
Wait a second. You asked him a question, and he was trying to answer it. Why don't you let him finish his answer?
All right, sorry.
I enjoyed making pancakes for the kids, and JonBenet enjoyed decorating them. So yes, it was kind of a special treat.
And after you'd finished breakfast, do you remember what you were doing?
At some point, I went out to the airport to pre-pack some gifts in the airplane, check it out, get it ready for an early morning departure. I remember kids being in and out of the house when I was there, neighborhood kids. We were going to go to the Whites that evening for a dinner. I remember JonBenet asking me to help her ride her bike around the corner, around the block, her new bike that she'd gotten for Christmas. That's generally what I remember that day.
Do you remember what happened?
This sounds like a more reflective tone. And it's a tone as if he's approaching somewhere he doesn't want to go.
In the evening, what you were doing in the evening?
Well, we went to the Whites' house where they had family and relatives, friends, I guess. We were perhaps the only friends there for a Christmas dinner.
Do you remember anything else about that Christmas dinner at Fleet White's?
Nothing notable. It was a family dinner.
What, if anything, did you do after Fleet White's dinner?
We left. Patsy wanted to drop 2 gifts off at the Walkers and the Steins, which we did on the way home. We pulled in the driveway into the garage. JonBenet was asleep in the back of the car. I carried her upstairs and put her to bed.
Is that the last time you saw JonBenet alive?
Yes, it was.
Do you know if Patsy joined you in the bedroom when you put JonBenet to bed?
I don't recall that she was in the bedroom when I was in the bedroom.
Do you remember what JonBenet was doing that evening when you were over at the Fleet Whites?
She was playing with Daphne upstairs. She and Daphne had both received a little bead making machine, and she and I and Fleet and Daphne sat on the floor and made necklace beads.
Do you remember anything else?
That's the highlight of my memory.
Do you have any memory of what she was doing after you left Fleet Whites?
She was asleep.
How soon after you left Fleet White did she go to sleep?
I don't know. Sometime between the time she got in the car and when we arrived home.
Do you remember whether she woke up at any time?
His energy is gone. He's sad. And I believe him. He's telling the truth. I think here.
Between the time you saw her asleep in the car and the time you put her to bed?
She did not.
At that point, after you put her to bed, what, if anything, did you do?
I went downstairs to get Burke in bed. He was putting together a little plastic toy that he'd gotten for Christmas, and I helped him finish it so he could get off to bed. And we did that, and then I went to bed myself.
When you say you went to bed yourself, do you remember exactly the sequence by which you prepared for going to bed that night?
I think I took my clothes off, brushed my teeth, put my pajamas on, and crawled into bed. It's
Did you do anything else?
not that I remember.
Did you use anything to help yourself go to
I
sleep?
took a melatonin tablet.
Do you know the amount of melatonin you took?
No, it was a over-the-counter tablet.
Was it a single tablet or half a tablet or two tablets?
I think it was a single tablet, as I recall.
Do you remember the brand?
No.
Do you know or remember whether or not you read anything before going to sleep?
I read for a few minutes, as I recall, before I turned the light out.
Do you remember at any point Patsy joining you in bed that night?
Patsy was in bed before I went to bed.
Do you remember what Patsy was wearing when she got into bed or was in bed?
I don't remember specifically, no.
All right. Did you wake up at all during the night?
I did not.
Started blinking a lot. Did you wake up at all? He was like, I did not.
Was this routine pretty much the normal routine when you went to bed at night when you were at home?
To take off his clothes.
To do
Brush his
precisely what you
teeth,
said. Was
put on his
anything
pajamas,
different
go to
than,
bed?
yeah, anything different than that?
Pretty standard routine.
Pretty standard routine. And
Except I usually didn't take a melatonin tablet every night.
why were you taking the melatonin that night?
I wanted to be sure I slept well because we were going to get up early and I was going to fly to Minneapolis and then on to Michigan. I did not.
Was this routine pretty much
Blinking a lot.
the normal routine when you went to bed at night when you were at home?
And I say that because he's not blinking. He's not had that problem at all. Then when he said that he didn't, he started blinking a lot.
To take off his clothes.
To do
Brush his
precisely what you
teeth,
said. Was
put on his
anything
pajamas,
different
go to
than,
bed?
yeah, anything different than that?
Pretty standard routine.
Pretty standard routine. And
Except I usually didn't take a melatonin tablet every night.
why were you taking the melatonin that night?
I wanted to be sure I slept well because we were going to get up early and I was going to fly to Minneapolis and then on to Michigan. I wanted to be fresh.
Do you know if Mrs. Ramsey was taking any medication to help her sleep?
And I think they were getting in bed about 9:30, somewhere around there, 9:30. They were getting in bed. And then they were clearly up according to the timeline, they were up prior to 6 to fly a plane somewhere. My problem with the eyes is possibility, of course, nervousness and anxiety, but the possibility of being dishonest. That's my thing.
Not to my
Any
knowledge.
melatonin?
No, I don't believe so.
You mentioned that you were going to fly to, where was it?
Minneapolis, and then on to Charlevoix, Michigan.
You have a pilot's license, I presume.
Yes, I do.
Can you tell me what sort of pilot's license you have?
I have a commercial license. I have a flight instructor license for airplanes, for instrument flying. I have a multi-engine rating, and I have an instrument rating.
What sort of planes does that allow you to fly?
Anything below 12,500 pounds gross weight.
Does that include twin engines?
Yes.
Does it include any kind of a jet?
Most jets are over 12,500 pounds that I know of.
May I ask you where you learned to fly?
My dad taught me.
Did you ever have occasion to fly when you were in the military?
No, I did not, other than in flying clubs.
Was that the normal means by which you would travel? You would fly yourself, or did you take commercial airlines?
Travel.
Travel around the country whenever you were traveling?
If I was flying for business, I normally would take commercial airlines. If I was flying personally with my family, we normally flew ourselves.
He was on licking his lips and clearing his palate. But when he's answering now, he's going like this. He's looking over at Mr. Hoffman, what it looks like he's talking to him, and he's like, yeah. And he's not making that eye contact, from what I can tell.
You say that, I understand that you were in the Navy, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. When you were in the Navy, can you describe, if you remember, pretty much what area you were responsible for as a serviceman?
Well, I was a civil engineer corps officer. I was stationed in the Philippines for 2 years. I was the civil engineer for the Naval Supply Depot in the Philippines. I was transferred to Atlanta, where I was the base engineer for the Naval Air Station in Atlanta.
Could you describe what you were doing as an engineer?
Contract management. We ran all the base utilities, maintenance and repair, road construction, long-term planning, site planning.
Were you actually involved in any hands-on engineering projects?
I had a staff that did that. I was in charge of the staff.
So, were you ever involved in any of the actual construction?
Did I pound nails? No.
Or do anything like that in any sort of manual labor way?
In the military?
Yeah, in the
I did
military.
not.
When you were not in the military, did you do that?
I enjoy remodeling and doing work with my hands, yes.
Did you do any remodeling in your home in Boulder?
Thank you.
We did quite a bit of remodeling. I did not do any of the work there, as I recall.
Did you have occasion to do remodeling in any of your other homes?
We have remodeled every home you've owned.
Have you personally done any remodeling in any of these homes?
Yes.
When you were in the Navy, you
That yes was very yes. Boom. Stop. Because what Mr. Hoffman is trying to get at is like, did you remodel anything downstairs, at all in the basement? Because if you did, you would know the layout of the basement.
went through basic training, naturally.
I went through Officer Candidate School in Newport, Rhode Island.
And can you just describe briefly what your basic training was like?
It was physical training, it was navigation, celestial navigation, seamanship, rules of the road relative to ship movement, and generally familiarization with military procedures and the military system.
You say
I'm going to stop it right there, because I've noticed that Lynn Wood has not objected quite at the frequency as in this interview thus far as with Patsy. I wonder why that is. I wonder why that is. The video, I got some stuff I'm thinking about. That's the video. Like, share, subscribe, engage. Let me know what you think. Until next video, take it easy.